Hi, guys, close your eyes, and let the modern world fade away. Tonight, we journey back across the centuries, to a time of flickering candlelight and stone hearths. You might think the world of the Middle Ages is long gone, but it still lives on, in the very way we eat, drink, and gather today. In this quiet exploration, we will uncover the strange, the forgotten, and the surprisingly familiar food habits of our ancestors. There is no rush, no excitement, just the steady rhythm of history. Stay with us as we settle into the long, slow story of the food that shaped our world. Imagine a kitchen from the late 14th century where the air is thick with the scent of burning oak and dried herbs. In the center of the room, a heavy iron cauldron hangs over a steady fire that never truly goes out. This is the heart of the home, where food isn't just prepared, but slowly transformed over hours and days. The walls of this kitchen are made of thick, cool stone, holding the memories of 1,000 meals and 1,000 winter nights. The floor is covered in dried rushes, giving off a faint, earthy aroma as you walk slowly across the room. Outside, the world is quiet, save for the distant sound of a bell or the wind through the trees, but here, the rhythm is steady and slow. The fire crackles softly, a gentle pop of wood now and then, as the flames lick the soot-covered bottom of the iron pot. Inside the cauldron, a thick pottage is simmering, a slow dance of bubbles rising to the surface and popping with a quiet sigh. There is no hurry here, as time is measured not by minutes, but by the gradual softening of grains and the deepening of flavors. The light in the room is warm and golden, casting long, lazy shadows that stretch across the wooden tables and the bundles of sage hanging from the rafters. You can smell the sweetness of onions that have been roasting in the embers for hours, their skins turning papery and dark, while their centers become soft and translucent. To the side, a large wooden bowl holds mounds of flour, waiting to be kneaded into the heavy loaves that will feed the household. The air feels heavy and comfortable, like a thick wool blanket that wraps around your shoulders, telling you that you are safe. Every movement in this kitchen is deliberate and practiced, from the stirring of the wooden spoon to the careful stacking of logs by the hearth. There are no bright lights or sharp noises, only the low hum of a world that understands the beauty of patience. As the steam rises from the pot, it carries with it the essence of the earth, of leeks pulled from the damp soil, and barley that basked in the summer sun. You might notice the way the light catches the steam, turning it into a soft, swirling mist that vanishes into the shadows of the high ceiling. The hearth is never cold, for a cold hearth meant a cold home, and so the fire is tended with a quiet devotion that borders on the sacred. Even at night, when the house is still, the embers glow like glow-set stars, keeping the pottage warm for the morning. This is a place where the past and the present blur together, where the simple act of cooking becomes a deep meditation. There is a sense of continuity in this room, a feeling that this same fire has been burning for generations, providing comfort to those who came before, and those who will come after. The oak wood burns slowly, releasing a deep, woody fragrance that settles into your clothes and your hair, a reminder of the vast forest outside. As you sit by the fire, the warmth begins to seep into your bones, relaxing every muscle and quieting every thought. The shadows on the wall seem to sway in time with the flickering flames, a silent performance that requires nothing from you but your presence. You can hear the faint scratching of a branch against the window, a reminder of the wild world beyond these walls, but inside, everything is contained and peaceful. The iron cauldron is heavy and ancient, its surface pitted by years of service, yet it remains as strong as ever. It has seen winters of deep snow and summers of golden heat, always remaining the center of gravity for the family. In this kitchen, Food is a slow conversation between the cook and the elements, a process of waiting and watching. There is no clock on the wall to rush the process, only the changing light and the sound of the bubbling pot. The dried herbs hanging above you, lavender and rosemary and thyme, release their oils into the warm air, creating a natural perfume that calms the mind. You might find yourself watching a single spark rise from the fire, drifting upward before disappearing into the dark chimney, a tiny journey that mirrors the drifting of your own thoughts. The wooden table is scarred with the marks of many knives, a history of preparation etched into its grain. It is a sturdy table, made of solid timber that feels cool and smooth to the touch. On it sits a small pile of salt, white as bone, and a wooden pitcher of cool water from the well. Every object in this room has a purpose and a story, from the copper pans to the simple linen cloths used to cover the bread. The silence of the room is not empty, but full of the soft sounds of the house breathing, the creak of a floorboard, the settling of the thatch roof. As the hours pass, the pottage grows richer, the vegetables melting into a thick, nourishing broth that smells of home. This is the original comfort. A meal that requires nothing but time and a steady flame. You feel the weight of your eyelids becoming heavier as the warmth of the hearth continues to embrace you. The world outside is vast and complicated, but here, life is reduced to the simplest of elements: fire, water, and grain. There is a profound peace in knowing that this process cannot be rushed, that the fire will take as long as it needs to do its work. The rhythm of the hearth is the heartbeat of the home, a steady and reassuring pulse that has comforted humanity for centuries. Even now, in our modern world, we feel a pull toward this simple warmth, a desire to return to the slow simmer of the pot and the crackle of the wood. It is a memory held in our very DNA, a reminder of a time when the end of the day meant sitting by the fire and letting the darkness gather outside. The scent of the burning oak is like a bridge to the past, connecting you to the millions of souls who have sat exactly where you are, watching the same dance of the flames. As the shadows grow longer and the room grows dimmer, the golden glow of the fire becomes the only thing that matters. It is a soft, flickering world of amber and deep brown, a sanctuary from the cold and the dark. You can almost feel the presence of the gardeners who tended the leeks, and the farmers who harvested the grain, their labor now part of the slow transformation in the pot. The pottage is a communal gift, a blend of many hands and many days. The iron hook that holds the cauldron is strong and dependable, a silent witness to the passage of time. Everything is in its place, and everything is as it should be. The quiet energy of the room is infectious, slowing your breath and calming your heart until you are perfectly in tune with the rhythm of the hearth. There is a deep, primal satisfaction in the smell of wood smoke and the sight of a full pot, a feeling of security that goes beyond words. As you linger in this space, the boundaries of the room seem to expand, becoming an infinite landscape of warmth and peace. You are a part of this story, a quiet observer of a tradition that never truly ends. The fire continues its slow work, the cauldron continues its steady simmer, and the heart of the home continues to beat, long into the night, as you drift, slowly, away. Beyond the steady rhythm of the hearth lies a concept that defines the very essence of medieval survival, the perpetual stew. Imagine a pot that never empties, a vessel of sustenance that remains over the fire for weeks, months, or even years. This was not just a meal, it was a living history of every ingredient that passed through the kitchen. As you sit in the dim light of the evening, you see the steam rising from the large iron pot, carrying the mingled scents of beef bones, wild carrots, and pearled barley. This is the perpetual stew, where the old meets the new in a slow, continuous simmer. Every morning, new water is added from the cool stone well, and every afternoon, a handful of herbs or a stray cabbage leaf finds its way into the bubbling broth. There is a profound comfort in the thought of a meal that never ends, a constant in a world that was often uncertain and cold. You watch the cook stir the pot with a long wooden paddle, the wood stained dark by years of immersion in rich, savory liquids. The sound of the paddle hitting the side of the iron pot is a dull, rhythmic thud, a sound that has echoed through this kitchen for generations. In the medieval mind, this pot was a symbol of abundance, a sign that the household would never go hungry as long as the fire remained lit. Today, we might think of our modern slow cookers, but they are mere echoes of this ancient, never-ending cauldron. The broth in the pot is deep and dark, a liquid velvet that has absorbed the minerals from bones and the sweetness from roots over countless hours. As you watch the bubbles rise, you begin to think about the continuity of life, how each day adds something small to the whole, just as each ingredient adds to the stew. The air in the room is warm and moist, a humid embrace that softens the dry air of the winter night. You can smell the subtle notes of peppercorns and dried cloves, expensive treasures that were added sparingly but whose essence lingers forever in the base of the stew. There is no recipe for a perpetual stew, it is guided only by what the earth provides each day. Perhaps today it is a few turnips from the garden, or a piece of salted pork saved from the autumn harvest. Everything is welcomed, everything is transformed by the heat and the time. The fire beneath the pot is managed with expert care, never too high to boil away the soul of the liquid, and never too low to let the warmth escape. It is a balance of elements, earth, fire, water, and time, all working together in a slow, silent harmony. You feel your breathing slowing down as you focus on the steady simmer, a visual lullaby that requires nothing but your quiet attention. The shadows cast by the cauldron are large and distorted, dancing on the stone walls in a slow, hypnotic movement. In the Middle Ages, the perpetual stew was the ultimate zero-waste kitchen, where nothing was ever truly discarded if it had flavor to give. This habit of preservation and reuse is built into our very nature, a survival instinct that feels strangely comforting in its simplicity. You imagine the taste of the broth, rich, complex, and deeply nourishing, a flavor that cannot be bought, only grown through patience. The room is silent, except for the soft glub-glub of the stew, a sound so consistent it becomes a part of the silence itself. You are drifting now, thinking about the families who gathered around this very pot, sharing stories of the harvest or the changing seasons while the steam warmed their faces. The perpetual stew was the silent witness to their lives, a constant companion through the dark nights and the early dawns. It is a beautiful thought, that something can be so enduring, so unchanging in a world of constant movement. You feel the tension leaving your shoulders, as the warmth of the story and the warmth of the hearth blend into one. Every hour that passes makes the stew better, more unified, more complete. Just as your mind is becoming more unified with the stillness of the night. The iron of the pot is seasoned by the fire, becoming smoother and darker with every passing year. It is a heavy object, anchored to the floor by its own weight and the weight of the history it holds. You might see the flicker of a flame reflected in the dark surface of the liquid, a tiny star in a sea of broth. The scent of wood smoke is always there, a smoky veil that adds the final layer of flavor to the perpetual meal. There is a deep peace in this kitchen, a sense that the work is never done, yet there is always time to rest. The perpetual stew does not demand your haste, it only asks for your presence. As you listen to the story of the never-ending pot, you feel yourself becoming a part of the slow cycle, a small part of the great, unfolding history of the home. The grains of barley at the bottom of the pot have become soft and translucent, like tiny pearls of light. The meat has long since fallen away into tender threads, enriching every spoonful with its essence. This is food for the soul as much as the body, a warm promise that tomorrow will bring another day of sustenance. The world outside may be cold and the wind may howl, but here, the stew remains warm, and the fire remains bright. You are safe in this moment, surrounded by the ancient wisdom of the hearth and the pot. The rhythm of the simmer is like a heartbeat, steady, calm, and eternal. You find yourself leaning into the silence, letting the descriptions of the warm, thick liquid fill your mind until there is room for nothing else. The perpetual stew is a lesson in patience, a reminder that the best things in life take time to develop. It is the opposite of the modern world. It is slow, it is deliberate, and it is honest. As the embers glow and the steam continues to rise, you feel a deep sense of gratitude for this simple, enduring habit. The habit of keeping the fire lit and the pot full. It is a legacy of care, a legacy of nourishment that spans across centuries to reach you tonight. Your eyes are heavy now, and the sound of the simmering pot is fading into a soft, distant hum. The perpetual stew will continue its work long after you have fallen asleep, a silent guardian of the kitchen, waiting for the morning light. Let the warmth carry you away, into the deep, dark richness of the night, where the fire never goes out, and the story never truly ends. Sleep now, in the warmth of the perpetual stew. Slowly, deeply, away. Beyond the eternal flame and the heavy iron pot, we find the soul of the medieval meal itself, the pottage. To understand pottage is to understand the very meaning of comfort, a dish so simple, yet so profound, that it sustained humanity for 1,000 years. Imagine a bowl carved from thick oak, resting heavily in your hands. The wood is warm from the steam that rises in gentle, swirling patterns toward the ceiling. This is pottage, the ancestor of every stew and every thick soup we know today, a humble mixture of grains, vegetables, and the essence of the garden. As you sit by the flickering light, you see the texture of the pottage. It is thick and hearty, a landscape of softened peas, leeks, and pearled barley. There is no pretense here, only the honest flavors of the earth, brought together by water and time. The smell is earthy and sweet, the scent of onions that have melted into the broth, and the herbal whisper of dried savory and wild thyme. For a medieval peasant or a weary traveler, a bowl of warm pottage was more than just food. It was a sanctuary against the cold, a promise of survival in a harsh, demanding world. You watch the wooden spoon dip into the bowl. The movement is slow and rhythmic, lifting a portion of the thick liquid that clings to the wood like a warm embrace. Every spoonful carries the history of the season, perhaps the sweetness of the first parsnips pulled from the frost-covered ground, or the nutty richness of oats harvested under a golden summer sun. In the medieval world, pottage was the great equalizer, eaten by the king in his stone hall and the laborer in his thatched hut. It is a dish that requires no teeth, no silver, and no hurry. It only asks for a hungry soul and a moment of quiet. As you listen to the soft crackle of the fire, you can almost feel the warmth of the bowl spreading through your palms, a heat that travels up your arms and settles in your chest. The pottage is never the same twice. It changes with the cycle of the moon and the turning of the soil. Sometimes it is green with the first cabbage leaves of spring, and sometimes it is gray and earthy with the dried beans of a long winter. But it is always there, a constant, steaming presence in the center of the table. You think about the word comfort, how it literally means with strength, and that is what pottage provided. It gave the strength to endure the rain, the strength to work the fields, and the strength to dream in the dark. The air around you is still. The only sound is the occasional clink of the spoon against the wood, and the distant, muffled sounds of the night. You are safe here, in this moment of culinary simplicity. The pottage has no sharp edges, no sudden spices to startle the senses, only a mellow, rounded flavor that coats the tongue and quiets the mind. You can see bits of cracked wheat that have puffed up, becoming soft clouds of grain in a sea of vegetable broth. There is a deep, primal satisfaction in eating something so closely tied to the land. You imagine the gardens where these vegetables grew, small plots of earth tended by hand, watered by the rain and watched over with care. This pottage is the final destination of that long journey, from seed to sprout, to harvest, and finally to the pot. As the steam continues to rise, it carries away your lingering thoughts, turning them into mist that vanishes into the shadows. You feel the heaviness of the day beginning to lift, replaced by the nourishing weight of the story. In America today, we have our stews and our thick chowders, but they are all echoes of this original comfort, a tradition of slow cooking that we still reach for when the world feels too fast. There is a reason we call it comfort food, because it connects us to this ancient rhythm of the hearth and the bowl. The room is growing darker now, the fire has settled into a deep, pulsing red, and the golden light on your bowl is fading into amber. You find yourself focusing on the slow, deliberate nature of the pottage. It cannot be made in a minute, it cannot be eaten in haste. It demands that you slow down, that you breathe, that you exist in the present moment. Every swallow is warm, a liquid blanket that makes your stomach feel full and your heart feel light. You are part of a long line of humans who have found peace in this simple meal. The pottage is a reminder that we don't need much to be happy, just warmth, salt, and a place to rest. The wooden bowl is now nearly empty, but the feeling of comfort remains, a lingering glow that makes your limbs feel heavy and relaxed. You can hear the wind whispering against the stone walls, but the pottage has created a barrier of warmth around you. You are insulated from the world, tucked away in a corner of history where nothing is required of you. The scent of the herbs is fainter now, a sleepy trail of rosemary that lulls your senses. Your breath is deep and steady, matching the slow cooling of the hearth. The pottage was the original comfort, because it was a dish of hope, a sign that the earth would provide, and the fire would warm. As you drift closer to sleep, let the image of the steaming bowl remain in your mind, a symbol of peace and plenty. The world is quiet, the pot is still, and the pottage has done its work. You are full, you are warm, and you are ready to rest. Let the darkness close in like a soft velvet curtain, while the memory of the original comfort food keeps you safe. Deep, slow, and eternal. Sleep now, in the quiet after the meal. Slowly, drifting away. As the first light of dawn begins to touch the frosted window panes, the medieval world does not wake to the smell of fresh coffee or sweet pastries. Instead, there is the quiet return to the hearth, where the remains of last night's meal wait patiently in the cooling embers. Imagine waking up in a room that is still dim, the air is crisp and cold, making you pull your heavy wool blankets tighter for one last moment. This is the hour of the leftovers, a practical and humble beginning to a long day of labor. In the medieval mind, nothing was ever truly finished, and breakfast was simply the continuation of the evening's story. You listen to the sound of bare feet on the cool floor, moving toward the fireplace where the iron pot still hangs. The fire has burned down to a soft, glowing bed of gray ash, but beneath that ash, the heat remains, a hidden heart that has kept the pottage warm through the darkest hours of the night. There is a deep, quiet beauty in this ritual, the act of eating what was prepared with love and time the day before. You watch as a wooden lid is lifted from the pot, releasing a small, ghostly cloud of steam that smells of thickened grains and slow-cooked leeks. This is the breakfast of leftovers, a meal that requires no new fire, no new preparation, only the willingness to accept what remains. In America today, we often rush through our mornings, but here, the morning is a slow transition. The pottage is thicker now, it has sat for hours, the barley and oats absorbing every last drop of the savory broth, becoming a dense, comforting porridge that sticks to the ribs. It is the ultimate fuel for the body and a soothing balm for the mind. You can see the dark crust that has formed at the very edge of the pot, where the heat was most intense. These are the prized bits, full of concentrated flavor and smoky depth. As you take a bowl of this warmed-over history, you feel a connection to the cycles of nature, where nothing is wasted and everything has a purpose. The room is silent, except for the soft clink of a spoon, and the distant call of a rooster echoing across the damp fields. The light is still gray and soft, casting no harsh shadows, just a gentle wash of color over the wooden table and the stone walls. You feel the first spoonful of the warm pottage hit your stomach, a radiating heat that slowly wakes up your senses from the inside out. It is a heavy meal, a solid foundation for a world that demands physical strength and mental endurance. There is no sugar here, no artificial sweetness, only the honest, nutty flavor of the earth. You think about how we still do this today. When we reach for a slice of cold pizza or a bowl of last night's stew, it is a lingering medieval instinct. It is the comfort of the familiar, the knowledge that you are already provided for. The steam from the bowl rises up to meet your face, a warm mist that carries the scent of wood smoke and dried herbs. You are not in a hurry, the sun is only just beginning its climb, and the work of the day can wait a little longer. You watch a single ember glow brighter for a second, then fade back into the gray, a tiny pulse of life in the quiet kitchen. The leftovers are a bridge between yesterday and today, a reminder that we are always building on what came before. Every bite is a meditation on survival and simplicity. You feel your eyelids growing heavy again, even as the day begins, because the warmth of the food is so deeply relaxing. The world outside is vast and cold, but inside this circle of warmth, there is only peace. The pottage has a different character this morning. It is more unified, the flavors have married and settled into a perfect, mellow harmony. It is the taste of time itself. As you sit in the silence, you notice the small details of the room, the way the light catches the dust motes dancing in the air, the way the wooden spoon feels smooth and worn in your hand. This is the luxury of the slow life, a life where breakfast is an act of gratitude for the leftovers of life. You are safe, you are warm, and you are fed. The rhythm of the morning is slow and steady, like the ticking of a clock that doesn't exist yet. You find yourself drifting into a state of calm contemplation, letting the warmth of the meal and the stillness of the room wash over you. The leftovers are enough, more than enough. They are a sign of a house that is well tended, a fire that is never neglected. As you finish the last of the bowl, you feel a sense of completion. The transition from sleep to waking is almost invisible, a soft blur of gray and gold. The breakfast of leftovers has done its work, it has grounded you in the earth and the history of the hearth. You are ready, not to rush, but to exist. Let the memory of the warm pot and the quiet morning stay with you, as you drift back toward the edges of sleep. The world is waking up, but you are still held in the embrace of the past. The fire will be built up again, the pot will be refilled, and the cycle will continue. But for now, there is only the quiet, the warmth, and the lingering scent of the morning's meal. Slowly, gently, you are falling back into the soft, dark history of the night. Sleep now, in the peace of the morning that has already been provided for. Deeply and calmly away. Imagine a world before the clatter of ceramic plates or the cold touch of metal trays, a world where the very vessel that held your meal was part of the meal itself. This is the story of the trencher, a thick, flat slab of stale bread that served as the primary plate for centuries. Picture a large, round loaf of coarse, brown bread, baked days ago so that it has become firm and sturdy, almost like a piece of soft wood. The cook takes a long, serrated knife and carefully slices a thick rectangle from the center of the loaf, placing it on the heavy timber table before you. This is your plate, your trencher, a humble foundation for the feast to come. As you sit in the quiet hall, the only sound is the crackle of the fire and the distant murmur of the evening. You look at the texture of the bread. It is rough and porous, filled with tiny craters and ridges that are waiting to capture the essence of the food. Soon, a ladle of thick, rich stew is poured directly onto the bread, followed by a slice of roasted meat, glistening with its own juices. You watch as the magic of the trencher begins. The bread does not break, instead, it begins to transform. It acts as a sponge, slowly, very slowly, absorbing the dark gravy, the fats, and the herbal oils from the stew. The edges of the bread remain crisp and dry, while the center becomes heavy and saturated with flavor. There is a deep, quiet satisfaction in watching this process, a slow-motion fusion of grain and broth. In the medieval world, the trencher was a symbol of practicality, no dishes to wash, no waste to speak of. For the wealthy, the trencher was often given to the poor after the meal, a bread soaked in the richness of a lord's table, a gift of flavor and sustenance. For the commoner, the trencher was the best part of the meal, the final, flavor-packed prize eaten at the very end. You imagine the taste of that bread. It is no longer just flour and water, it has become a concentrated map of the entire meal. It is soft, savory, and incredibly comforting. As you sit in the dim, golden light, you realize that we still do this today in America, when we eat a bread bowl filled with clam chowder, or a thick slice of toast under a poached egg. It is the same instinct, the desire for the bread to capture the soul of the sauce. The air in the room is warm, smelling of toasted crust and roasted garlic. You feel your pulse slowing down as you focus on the stillness of the table. The trencher is an anchor, a solid, reliable object in a flickering, candlelit world. You can see the steam rising from the saturated bread, a gentle mist that carries the scent of the harvest. Every movement in the hall is slow, as if time itself has become as thick as the gravy on your plate. There is no rush to finish, for the bread will only get better the longer it sits, the longer it soaks. You feel a sense of peace in this ancient simplicity. The world outside is complex and loud, but here, dinner is just bread and what the bread can hold. You watch a drop of juice run down the side of the trencher, only to be caught by a fold in the crust. It is a perfect system, a design perfected over 1,000 years of hunger and hearths. Your hands feel the warmth radiating from the bread, a gentle heat that relaxes your fingers and calms your mind. The shadows on the stone walls are long and soft, swaying like the wheat in the fields from which this bread came. You are drifting now, thinking about the millions of hands that have held a trencher, the soldiers, the farmers, the travelers, all finding comfort in this edible plate. It is a universal language of the hearth. The bread is a gift from the earth, transformed by fire, and then transformed again by the meal it holds. You feel your breathing becoming rhythmic, matching the slow rise and fall of the distant fire. The trencher is a reminder that the best things are often the most basic. As you move closer to sleep, let the image of the golden, juice-soaked bread fill your mind. It is heavy, it is warm, and it is enough. The meal is ending, but the comfort remains, locked inside the grain of the bread. The table is quiet, the hall is still, and the light is fading into a deep, restful indigo. You are part of this ancient circle, a witness to the beauty of the bread. Let the warmth of the trencher carry you into the world of dreams, where every meal is a feast, and every hearth is a home. Sleep now, as the bread soaks up the last of the light, and the darkness becomes as soft as a fresh loaf. Slowly, deeply, into the crust of the night. Sleep, in the peace of the trencher. Away and away. In the quiet world of the medieval village, the status of a person was not found in their gold, or their titles, but in the color of the bread they held in their hands. Imagine a long, wooden table where a community has gathered, and on this table, there is a spectrum of grain, a ladder of social hierarchy made of flour and yeast. At the very top, reserved for the high nobles and the clergy, lies the manchet bread. It is a small loaf, pale as the winter moon and soft as a cloud. To create this white bread, the wheat has been bolted and sifted through fine silk over and over again, until only the purest heart of the grain remains. You can almost see the light reflecting off its snowy surface, a bread that speaks of wealth, of leisure, and of a life far removed from the dirt of the fields. The smell is delicate, a faint sweetness of yeast and sun-drenched wheat, a scent that fills the nostrils with a sense of refined peace. As you watch this pale loaf being sliced with a silver blade, you notice the silence that surrounds it. It is a bread of the silent halls, of the high stone towers where the wind whispers through tapestries. But then, your eyes move down the table, to the middle ground, where the maslin bread sits. This is a blend, a mixture of wheat and rye grown together in the same field, a marriage of textures and tones. It is darker, a warm, honey-brown color that feels more grounded, more connected to the earth. Maslin is the bread of the merchant, the craftsman, the person who works hard but has a roof of slate over their head. It is sturdy and reliable, with a crust that crackles like a secret being told, and a center that is dense and satisfying. You imagine the taste of this middle bread. It is nutty and rich, a balance of the lightness of wheat and the deep, sour soul of the rye. And then, at the very end of the table, we find the bread of the commoner, the black bread of the peasant. This is the horse bread, or the bean bread, made of barley, rye, peas, and even dried beans. It is dark as the soil itself, a heavy, solid mass that feels like a stone in the hand. There is no silk sifting here, only the raw, honest remains of the harvest, husks and all. But there is a deep, ancient strength in this dark loaf. It is the bread that built the cathedrals, the bread that tilled the earth for 1,000 years. As you sit in the growing shadows, you realize the irony of our modern world. Today in America, we search for this dark, whole-grain bread, we call it artisanal, and pay a premium for the seeds and the husks, while the white bread of the nobles has become the common loaf. History has flipped on its head, but the comfort remains the same. You feel your breathing slowing down as you focus on the different textures of these loaves. The pale manchet, the golden maslin, and the deep, dark rye. Each one tells a story of a person's place in the world, but when the sun goes down, and the fire burns low, they all provide the same warmth to the stomach. The air in the room is heavy with the scent of toasted grain, a dry, comforting perfume that lulls the senses. You can see the steam rising from a freshly broken loaf of the dark bread, a thick, earthy mist that smells of wood smoke and autumn rain. There is a profound stillness in this realization, that even something as simple as bread can hold the weight of history. You watch a single crumb fall from the table, a tiny speck of history that vanishes into the rushes on the floor. Every loaf is a gift from the sun and the rain, transformed by the hands of the miller and the baker. You feel the tension leaving your jaw as you imagine the soft interior of the white bread and the chewy, resistant crust of the dark. The shadows on the walls are moving in a slow, rhythmic dance, like the swaying of the wheat in the great fields beyond the village. You are drifting now, feeling the social hierarchies fade away into the darkness. In the world of sleep, there are no lords and no peasants. There is only the quiet breath of the dreamer. The bread is just bread, a symbol of life, an anchor of peace. You imagine the heavy wooden bowls filled with grain, the sound of the millstone grinding slowly, a low, grumbling hum that resonates in your very bones. The cycle of the grain is the cycle of life, sowing, growing, harvesting, and baking. It is a process that cannot be rushed. It demands the patience of the seasons. Just as sleep demands your patience, a slow surrender to the night. You feel the weight of your eyelids, as heavy as a loaf of peasant bread, pulling you down toward the earth. The light of the candle is flickering, a small, golden heart in the center of the dark room. It reflects off the crust of the loaves, creating a landscape of amber ridges and dark valleys. You are safe, you are held in the history of the grain. The white bread of the past, and the dark bread of the present, they all lead to this same moment of quiet. The room is silent now, the fire is but a bed of glowing coals, and the scent of the bakery is a distant memory. You are floating, somewhere between the pale moon and the dark earth. Let the story of the bread carry you into the fields of rest, where the harvest is always plentiful, and the work is always done. The table is empty, the hall is still, and the stars are watching over the grain. Sleep now, in the soft hierarchy of the night, where everyone is equal in the arms of sleep. Slowly, deeply, away. Into the flour, into the yeast, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. Think for a moment about the modern grocery aisles, filled with cartons of almond milk, and how we view it as a contemporary health trend, a product of the 21st century. But as you drift back into the shadows of the medieval kitchen, you will find that this creamy, nut-based liquid was a staple long before the first skyscraper was built. Imagine the high stone walls of a monastery, or the bustling kitchen of a royal manor during the long weeks of Lent. In these times, the church strictly forbade the consumption of animal milk, butter, and eggs, calling for a period of fasting and reflection. But the medieval cook was a master of adaptation, and their solution was found in the humble, dry almond. Picture a large stone mortar and pestle, where a handful of blanched almonds are being crushed, slowly, rhythmically, until they become a fine, oily paste. Then, warm spring water is added, and the mixture is stirred with a steady hand, turning the clear water into a rich, milky white cloud. This is the almond milk of the Middle Ages, a versatile treasure that allowed people to enjoy creamy soups and sweet puddings even during the strictest fasts. As you sit in the quiet, cool air of the larder, you can smell the faint, floral scent of the crushed nuts, a delicate aroma that cuts through the heavy smell of wood smoke. It is a clean, light fragrance, a reminder of orchards in distant, sun-drenched lands. You watch as the liquid is strained through a fine linen cloth, dripping slowly into a ceramic pitcher with a soft, melodic drip drop. Each drop is a concentrated essence of patience. Almond milk was not just a substitute, it was a luxury. Because almonds had to be imported from the Mediterranean, this milk was a sign of status, a creamy delight reserved for those who could afford the taste of the sun in the middle of a cold, northern winter. It was shelf-stable, it didn't spoil as quickly as cow's milk, making it the perfect companion for the slow-moving medieval world. You imagine the texture of a pottage made with this almond cream. It is silkier, lighter, a sophisticated touch that changed the very nature of the meal. As you listen to the silence of the room, you realize that we are simply repeating the habits of our ancestors. When we reach for that carton today, we are connecting to a 1,000-year-old tradition of creativity and survival. The light in the room is fading now, turning from golden amber to a soft, milky gray. You feel the tension leaving your neck and shoulders as you focus on the image of the white liquid swirling in the dark pitcher. It is a visual lullaby, a calm, consistent movement that requires no effort from you. The medieval cook used almond milk for everything, in thick sauces for fish, in sweet porridges topped with honey, and even as a base for medicinal tonics. It was a bridge between the forbidden and the permissible, a clever way to find comfort within the rules. You can almost feel the coolness of the stone mortar beneath your hands, a grounding weight that connects you to the earth. Every crush of the pestle is a heartbeat, slow, steady, and reassuring. The world outside may be fasting, the fields may be frozen, but inside, there is this liquid gold, this white essence of life. You are drifting now, thinking about the long trade routes that brought these nuts across the mountains and seas, a journey of months just to reach this kitchen. Everything in the medieval world took time, and that time is what made everything precious. We have lost that sense of waiting, but here, in the world of sleep, we can find it again. There is no rush to finish the story, just as there was no rush to strain the milk. The linen cloth is wet and heavy, holding the remnants of the almond meal, which will later be used to thicken a sauce or bake a small cake. Nothing is wasted, everything is used. You feel your breathing matching the slow drip of the liquid, a rhythmic pulse that lulls you deeper into the cushions of your mind. The almond milk is a symbol of ingenuity, a reminder that even when things are restricted, we find a way to flourish. The room is growing darker, the fire in the distance is just a soft, orange glow, and the scent of the almonds is a lingering, sweet memory. You are safe in the knowledge that history repeats itself in the most comforting ways. The carton in your modern fridge is a ghost of this ancient pitcher. Let the creaminess of the thought fill your mind, softening the sharp edges of your day, turning your thoughts into a smooth, white cloud of peace. You are floating, somewhere between the monastery walls and the modern world, held by the continuity of the nut and the water. The pitcher is full, the work is done, and the kitchen is settling into its nightly rest. Sleep now, in the ancient alternative of the night, where the milk is always sweet, and the rest is always deep. Slowly, drifting, away. Into the almond, into the silk, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In a world without the hum of a refrigerator, or the chill of a modern freezer, the medieval soul looked to the unseen world to preserve the harvest. This was the art of fermentation, a slow, magical transformation where time and salt turned fresh vegetables into enduring treasures. Imagine a cool, dark cellar deep beneath a stone manor. The air is damp and smells of wet earth, oak wood, and something sharp and tangling. Here, rows of heavy earthenware crocks sit in the shadows, their lids sealed tight with wax or heavy stones. Inside these vessels, a silent miracle is taking place, a process where the sugars of the earth are being reborn. Take, for instance, the humble cabbage, sliced into thin ribbons and packed tightly with coarse sea salt. You can almost hear the quiet crunch as the cabbage is pressed down by a heavy wooden mallet, releasing its juices to create a natural brine. This is the birth of sauerkraut, a staple that provided vital nutrients through the long, dark winters when nothing grew in the frozen soil. The fermentation process is not a fast one, it is a slow conversation between the vegetable and the air. Week after week, it sits in the darkness, becoming sharper, deeper, and more complex. As you stand in the stillness of the cellar, you realize that this was the original biotechnology, a way to capture the essence of summer and keep it alive for the spring. But it wasn't just vegetables. Think of the large wooden tons of ale and cider, where yeast danced in the dark to create the primary drink of the people. Every village had its own mother yeast, a living organism passed down through generations, a family heirloom that smelled of bread and honey. There is a profound sense of security in these fermented crocks, a knowledge that even when the fields are buried in snow, there is life and health waiting in the cellar. Today, in our modern world, we are rediscovering this ancient wisdom. We look at our jars of kombucha, our sourdough starters, and our probiotic yogurts, and we realize we are simply returning to the medieval table. The sharp, fermented tang that we now call a health trend was once the very key to survival. It is a taste of the past that still lives in our gut today. You feel your pulse slowing down as you imagine the quiet bubbling of the crocks, a tiny, microscopic rhythm that mirrors the heartbeat of the earth. The cellar is a place of deep peace, a sanctuary where the rush of the world cannot enter. The temperature is constant, the light is low, and the air is still. You can smell the deep, yeasty aroma of the ale, a comforting, bready scent that makes you feel grounded and safe. This is the art of waiting, of trusting that nature knows what to do if we only give it time. Every jar is a promise kept, a testament to the ingenuity of our ancestors who understood the power of the invisible. As you drift deeper into the shadows of the cellar, you feel the tension leaving your limbs, as if you, too, are settling into a long, quiet rest. The fermentation doesn't require your help, it happens in the dark, while the world sleeps. It is a silent labor of love. You think about the crocks of pickles, the jars of salted herbs, and the heavy loaves of sourdough waiting for the morning fire. Everything is in its place, everything is preserved. The art of fermentation is the art of living with the seasons, of accepting that there is a time for growth and a time for stillness. You are in that time of stillness now. The light of your candle is just a tiny spark in the vast, cool dark, reflecting off the glazed surface of the jars. It is a world of amber and deep brown, a world of preservation and peace. Your breathing is deep and steady, matching the slow, invisible work of the yeast. You are part of this ancient cycle, a witness to the beauty of the long wait. The modern world, with its instant meals and fast lives, feels very far away. Here, there is only the crock, the salt, and the time. Let the sharp, clean scent of the fermented earth fill your mind, clearing away the clutter of the day, leaving only the essential, the pure, and the preserved. You are floating, somewhere between the harvest and the winter, held by the wisdom of the cellar. The jars are full, the seals are tight, and the work is being done in the quiet dark. Sleep now, in the art of the long ferment, where time is not an enemy, but a friend. Slowly, drifting, away. Into the oak, into the salt, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In the quiet, dim light of a great medieval hall, where the smoke of the hearth curls toward the high, oak-beamed ceiling, there is a scent that doesn't belong to the local fields or the nearby woods. It is a scent of distant lands, of sun-drenched islands and vast, burning deserts, the scent of spices. Imagine a time when a handful of peppercorns was worth as much as a man's life, and a single pound of ginger could buy a whole sheep. In this world, spices were not just for flavor, they were the ultimate language of power, the white gold and black diamonds of the medieval table. Picture a small, ornate silver box, sitting in the center of a noble's table, a nef or a spice cellar that is kept under lock and key. The lord of the manor reaches into this box with careful fingers, taking a pinch of powdered cinnamon, as fine and red as the dust of a legendary city. As the spice falls onto the roasted meat, you can smell its warmth, a sweet, woody aroma that fills the air with a sense of extreme luxury. To the medieval mind, the more spice you used, the more important you were. If a dish was so heavily seasoned that you could barely taste the meat, it was a sign of incredible wealth, a way of saying that the world was yours to command. You listened to the silence of the hall, and you realized that every grain of pepper on that plate has traveled thousands of miles, across stormy seas in wooden ships, and over vast mountains in camel caravans. These spices are the travelers of history, carrying with them the stories of Silk Roads and Spice Islands. Imagine the scent of cloves, sharp, deep, and medicinal, a fragrance that was believed to come from the very gates of paradise. Or the bright, golden hue of saffron, the most precious of all, made from the tiny, hand-picked threads of 1,000 crocuses. When saffron was added to a pottage, it turned the humble broth into a bowl of liquid gold, a visual spectacle that dazzled the eyes of the guests. As you sit in the warmth of the room, you feel your pulse slowing down as you focus on these exotic fragrances. Today, in America, we reach for a jar of cinnamon in the pantry without a second thought. It is a common comfort for our morning toast. But as you drift towards sleep, try to remember the weight of that history. The spice trade shaped the map of the world. It was the reason for the great voyages of discovery, the reason why your kitchen cabinet is a museum of global struggle and triumph. The air in the medieval kitchen is heavy with this complex perfume, a blend of nutmeg, mace, and long pepper, a scent that makes the head feel light and the heart feel still. It is a dry, warm smell, like the air in a library full of old, leather-bound books. You can see the cook carefully grinding a whole nutmeg against a silver grater, a slow, rhythmic scritch-scritch that is the only sound in the quiet larder. Each grain that falls is a tiny piece of the sun. There is a profound peace in knowing that these flavors have been cherished for centuries. Spices were used in everything, in wine to make it spicy and sweet, in meat to preserve and mask, and even in medicines to balance the humors of the body. They were believed to be a bridge between the physical world and the spiritual realm. As you drift deeper into the shadows, you feel the tension leaving your mind, as if the warmth of the spices is melting away the coldness of the day. The spice box is closed now, the silver lid clicking shut with a soft, final sound. The treasures are safe, the feast is over, and the hall is settling into a quiet, fragrant sleep. You can still smell the lingering ghost of the ginger, a sharp, clean memory that lulls your senses. This is the luxury of the past, the ability to taste the entire world in a single bite. You are floating, somewhere between the markets of Alexandria and the quiet halls of Europe, held by the invisible threads of the spice trade. Every spice in your cabinet is a descendant of these status symbols. When you smell cinnamon tonight, let it be a lullaby of the ancient world. A reminder of the long journeys, the vast distances, and the quiet patience required to bring beauty to the table. The room is dark now, the fire is just a bed of orange embers, and the scent of the spices is a fading, golden mist. You are safe, you are warm, and you are surrounded by the riches of the earth. Sleep now, in the fragrant history of the night, where the pepper is gold, and the rest is eternal. Slowly, drifting away. Into the clove, into the saffron, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In the modern world, we often draw a strict line between our dinner and our dessert, keeping the salty and the sweet in separate worlds. But as you drift back into the flickering light of a medieval banquet hall, you will find that these two worlds were once deeply intertwined, a beautiful and strange fusion that defined the palate of the past. Imagine a massive meat pie, its crust golden and fluted, standing proudly in the center of a heavy oak table. As the knife breaks through the pastry, the steam that escapes carries a scent that is both familiar and surprising. You smell the savory richness of slow-roasted venison, but beneath it, there is the dark, honeyed sweetness of dried dates, and the bright, tart burst of currants. This is the sweet and savory fusion of the Middle Ages, where sugar was treated not as a treat for children, but as a spice for the brave. The medieval cook believed that the world was a balance of opposites, and that a meal was only complete if it touched every corner of the tongue. Picture a dish of roasted chicken, glazed with a reduction of red wine and honey, and topped with a handful of sugar-coated almonds. The crunch of the sweet nut against the tender, salty meat is a sensory lullaby, a complex harmony that slows down the act of eating. You sit in the quiet hall, watching the candlelight reflect off the glazed surfaces of the food, and you feel the stillness of the room settling into your bones. There is no rush to categorize these flavors, they simply exist together in a warm, unified glow. To the medieval mind, adding fruit like raisins or prunes to a beef pottage was a way of bringing the son of the orchard into the salt of the earth. It was a culinary marriage that felt natural and whole. As you listen to the rhythmic crackle of the fireplace, you realize that this fusion still lives in our American traditions, even if we don't always notice it. Think of the Thanksgiving table, where the salty, roasted turkey sits beside the deep, ruby sweetness of cranberry sauce. Or the glazed ham of a holiday dinner, coated in brown sugar and studded with cloves and pineapple. These are the lingering echoes of the medieval taste, a bridge across centuries that still brings comfort to our modern holidays. The air in the kitchen is heavy with this dual perfume, the savory scent of browning meat and the sugary aroma of simmering fruits. It is a scent that feels dense and protective, like a thick tapestry hanging over a stone wall. You can see the cook stirring a pot of blanc manger, a creamy mixture of shredded chicken, rice, and almond milk, sweetened with sugar and rosewater. It sounds like a dessert, yet it was served as a main course, a soft, white cloud of flavor that was believed to be easy on the spirit and the stomach. Every movement in the kitchen is slow and deliberate, the pouring of the honey, the sprinkling of the dried fruits, the careful folding of the sugar into the meat juices. There is a profound peace in this lack of boundaries. You feel your breathing becoming steady and deep as you focus on the image of a plum tart seasoned with black pepper and ginger. It is a world where every bite is an adventure, yet every flavor is an old friend. The sugar of the Middle Ages was often loaf sugar, hard and dark, which had to be scraped and grated into the pots like a precious spice. Each grain was a treasure from a distant land, and it was used to elevate the humble products of the forest and the farm. As you drift deeper into the shadows of the night, you feel the tension leaving your mind, as if the sweetness of the story is melting away the sharp edges of your day. The fusion of flavors is like the fusion of your thoughts, blending together into a soft, indistinct dream. You are floating, somewhere between the orchard and the hunt, held by the balance of the sweet and the salt. The meat pie is finished, the glaze has cooled, and the hall is settling into a quiet, contented sleep. You can still smell the faint, ghostly scent of the cloves and the raisins, a warm, spiced memory that lulls your senses. This is the art of the complete meal, where nothing is excluded, and everything is in balance. You are safe, you are warm, and you are surrounded by the rich complexity of history. When you taste something sweet and salty together tomorrow, let it be a reminder of this ancient harmony. A reminder that opposites can live together in peace. The room is dark now, the fire is just a soft, orange heartbeat in the corner, and the scent of the fusion is a fading, golden mist. Sleep now, in the sweet and savory history of the night, where the honey meets the hearth, and the rest is eternal. Slowly, drifting, away. Into the date, into the deer, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. As the winter solstice approaches and the nights grow long and cold, a specific scent begins to drift from the medieval ovens, a scent that is both spicy, sweet, and deeply mysterious. This is the smell of the original mince pie, a dish that has traveled through centuries, slowly losing its identity until only a ghost of its past remains. Today, in our modern world, we think of mince pies as small, sweet treats filled with dried fruits and suet, but in the Middle Ages, they were massive, hearty creations that held a secret within their crust. Imagine a large, oblong pie crust, known as a coffin, baked hard and thick to protect the precious contents inside. Inside this pastry walls, there is a complex mixture of real minced meat, usually mutton or beef, blended with shredded suet, dried currants, and a heavy hand of exotic spices. This was the minced meat, a savory, protein-rich filling that was preserved and flavored with the sweetness of fruits and the sharpness of vinegar. As you sit by the roaring fire, listening to the winter wind howl against the stone, you see the steam rising from a freshly cut mince pie. You can smell the deep, gamey aroma of the meat, perfectly balanced by the floral scent of cinnamon and the biting heat of ginger. To the medieval mind, this was the ultimate winter luxury, a way to eat meat that had been preserved since the autumn harvest, made delicious by the riches of the spice trade. There is a profound stillness in the kitchen as the cook carefully packs the meat into the crust, layer by layer, ensuring that no air remains. Each pie was a treasure chest, and the spices acted as a natural preservative, allowing the meat to stay good through the 12 days of Christmas. In America, we have forgotten the meat in our mincemeat, but we still crave that specific blend of spices, the nutmeg, the cloves, and the allspice that define our holiday baking. When you smell a mince pie today, you are smelling a culinary fossil, a memory of a time when the line between dinner and dessert did not exist. The air in the larder is cool and quiet, smelling of cold pastry and warm cloves. You feel your pulse slowing down as you focus on the rhythmic tapping of the cook's knife. Tap, 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 as they mince the meat into tiny, uniform pieces. It is a slow, meditative process, a labor of love for the dark days of the year. The pies were often shaped like a cradle, a symbolic nod to the season, and were intended to bring luck to all who ate them. You can see the golden glow of the oven reflecting off the glazed crust, a warm, protective shell for the winter feast. There is a sense of security in these heavy pies, a knowledge that even when the ground is frozen solid, there is warmth and nourishment inside the home. Every bite was a concentrated burst of energy, a mixture of fat, sugar, and protein that kept the body warm in the drafty stone halls. You feel your breathing becoming deep and steady as you imagine the rich, dark interior of the pie, where the juices of the meat have mingled with the sweetness of the raisins. It is a flavor that is ancient, dense, and incredibly grounding. The mystery of the mince pie is the mystery of transformation, how a savory survival food became a sweet holiday tradition. It is a reminder that history is always changing, yet some things, like the need for comfort in the dark, remain the same. The kitchen is quiet now. The last of the pies have been taken from the oven and set to cool on the wooden shelves. The scent of the spices lingers in the air, a warm, invisible blanket that covers the entire house. You are drifting now, somewhere between the medieval winter and the modern holiday, held by the spicy, sweet mystery of the mince. You feel the tension leaving your hands and feet, as if the warmth of the pie is radiating through the story and into your very soul. The fire is burning low, just a soft, red heartbeat in the shadows, and the room is filled with the peace of the solstice. You are safe, you are warm, and you are surrounded by the smells of 1,000 winters. Let the scent of the cloves and the nutmeg guide you into a deep, restful sleep. The mystery is solved, the pies are ready, and the night is long. Sleep now, in the spiced history of the mince pie, where the meat meets the fruit, and the rest is eternal. Slowly drifting away. Into the crust, into the spice, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. Imagine a world governed not by the clock, but by the tolling of a cathedral bell and the rhythmic cycle of the liturgical calendar. In the Middle Ages, the Church held a profound influence over the kitchen, dictating not just what you thought, but exactly what you ate for nearly a third of the year. This brings us to the tradition of Fish Fridays, a practice of fasting and abstinence that would eventually shape the culinary habits of the entire Western world. Every Friday, and during the 40 days of Lent, meat was strictly forbidden. No beef, no pork, no poultry, nothing that came from the warm-blooded animals of the land. As you sit in the quiet, cool shadows of a Friday morning, you can hear the distant splashing of the river, and the sound of wooden crates being moved in the town market. This was the day of the fish. Imagine a large, stone-floored larder, where rows of salted cod and dried herring are stacked like cordwood. These were the staples of the sea, preserved with salt and wind so they could travel hundreds of miles inland to reach every table. The smell is sharp, salty, and distinctly of the ocean, a scent that cuts through the usual aroma of wood smoke and damp earth. You watch as a piece of salt cod is placed in a wooden tub of fresh water, to soak away the crust of salt that has kept it edible for months. It is a slow process, a gradual softening of the flesh, mirroring the quiet, reflective nature of the fast day. In the medieval mind, fasting was not about hunger, it was about discipline, and finding a different kind of satisfaction in the bounty of the water. For the wealthy, Fish Friday was an opportunity for culinary art, dishes of delicate trout with almond milk sauces, or jellied eels seasoned with ginger and saffron. But for the common person, it was a meal of salted herring and a thick piece of dark bread. As you listen to the rhythmic slap-slap of the waves against the riverbank, you realize that this tradition still lives on in the modern American heartland. Think of the Friday fish fry in Wisconsin, or the Lent specials at every neighborhood diner. These are not just modern trends, they are a 1,000-year-old echo of the medieval fast. The air in the kitchen today is different, it is cleaner, lighter, smelling of poaching liquids, bay leaves, and peppercorns. You feel your breathing becoming deep and steady as you focus on the image of a silver-scaled fish resting on a bed of damp seaweed. It is a cool, silver world, a sanctuary of water in a world of fire. The cook is preparing a Lenten pottage, where the richness of meat broth is replaced by the delicate, clear flavor of fish stock. You can see the steam rising in thin, transparent ribbons, carrying the scent of the sea into the heart of the forest. There is a profound peace in this dietary shift, a moment for the body and the mind to rest from the heavy, savory richness of land meats. To the medieval person, fish were mysterious creatures, sometimes thought to be born from the water itself, and eating them was a way of cleansing the soul. You might even remember the strange medieval belief that certain birds, like the barnacle goose, were actually fish because they lived near the water, a clever way to keep meat on the menu during a fast. But mostly, it was a day of simplicity. As the sun begins to set on a Friday evening, the meal is served in the quiet hall. The candles are dim, and the mood is one of calm reflection. Every bite of the flaky, white fish is a reminder of the vast, hidden world beneath the waves, a world that provides even when the fields are resting. You feel the tension leaving your limbs, as if you are floating on the surface of a calm, dark lake. The water is still, the fire is low, and the day of the fast is coming to a close. The salt from the cod lingers on the air, a dry, clean scent that clears the mind of its daily clutter. You are safe, you are quiet, and you are connected to a tradition that has survived empires and oceans. The Fish Friday was a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, a way to honor the earth by changing what we take from it. As you drift deeper into the night, let the image of the cool, silver fish guide you into a deep, watery rest. The bells have stopped ringing, the kitchen is clean, and the fast is over. But the peace of the Friday remains, a steady, rhythmic pulse that lulls you into the deep blue of sleep. Slowly, drifting away. Into the salt, into the stream, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In the modern world, we are often separated from the reality of where our food comes from, hidden behind plastic wrap and sterile supermarket shelves. But in the medieval world, there was a profound and deep respect for the animal that gave its life for the table. This was the era of head-to-tail eating, a philosophy of survival and gratitude where absolutely nothing was wasted. Imagine the quiet, cool air of a late autumn evening, as a village prepares for the long winter ahead. A single animal has been harvested, and the kitchen becomes a place of intense, slow, and purposeful work. Every part of the creature, from the snout to the hooves, from the organs to the marrow, is seen as a gift to be preserved. You sit by the low light of the hearth, watching the shadows of the cook's hands as they move with a rhythm that is centuries old. To the medieval mind, wasting a single scrap of meat was not just a loss of money, it was a failure of the spirit. You can smell the deep, iron-rich scent of the organ meats, simmering in a heavy pot with onions and red wine. It is a scent that is primitive, powerful, and deeply grounding. Think of the humble pie, a dish made from the umbles or the internal organs of a deer, a rich, complex meal that provided more nutrients than any prime cut of steak. Or the slow, day-long boiling of the hooves and head to release the natural collagens, creating a thick, gelatinous broth that would heal the joints and warm the soul. As you listen to the steady drip-drip of the fat being collected in a stone jar, you feel a sense of absolute security. Nothing is thrown away. The fat will be used for candles and cooking, the bones will be cracked for their buttery marrow, and the skin will be tanned for warmth. This is the ultimate zero-waste life, a life of total harmony with the cycle of nature. Today, in our finest restaurants in America, chefs are returning to this ancient wisdom, calling it nose-to-tail dining, rediscovering that the heart, the liver, and the tongue hold flavors more intense and beautiful than anything found in a modern steakhouse. We are coming full circle, returning to the medieval kitchen to learn how to be sustainable once again. The air in the larder is cool and heavy, smelling of salt, blood, and dried sage. You feel your breathing becoming rhythmic and slow as you focus on the image of a massive bone being split to reveal the shimmering marrow inside. Marrow was known as the butter of the gods, a soft, melting substance that was spread on thick, dark bread. It is the taste of the very core of life. There is a profound peace in this lack of waste, a feeling that the world is being used correctly. You watch the steam rising from a pot of trotters, a gentle, white mist that carries the essence of the animal into the rafters. Every part of the creature is being transformed by the fire, being made into something nourishing and whole. This is the art of the complete life. You feel the tension leaving your limbs, as if the weight of the modern world is being replaced by this sturdy, medieval reality. In the silence of the room, you can hear the soft bubbling of the stock pot. Blub blub blub, as it extracts the last bit of goodness from the bones. It is a sound of patience, a sound of respect. The medieval person lived close to the animal, they knew its breath, they knew its warmth, and they honored it by ensuring every piece of it served a purpose. It was a sacred contract. As the night grows deeper, the work in the kitchen slows down. The stone jars are full of lard, the pots are full of rich, dark meats, and the marrow has been shared. The room is filled with a sense of completion, a sense that the harvest has been fully honored. You are drifting now, somewhere between the modern kitchen and the ancient hearth, held by the continuity of the hunt and the meal. Every part of the story is necessary, just as every part of the animal was necessary. You are safe, you are warm, and you are connected to a time when humans knew exactly where they fit in the world. Let the deep, savory scent of the slow-cooked bones lull you into a restful sleep. The pot is full, the animal is honored, and the larder is stocked for the winter. There is nothing left to do but rest, and be thankful for the bounty of the earth. Sleep now, in the head-to-tail history of the night, where the heart is full, and the rest is eternal. Slowly, drifting, away. Into the marrow, into the bone, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In the cool, shadowy depths of the medieval stone larder, there is a sight that looks like something made of glass or liquid silver, resting silently on a wooden board. This is the aspic, a shimmering, translucent jelly that was far more than a fancy decoration. It was a masterpiece of ancient food preservation. Long before the invention of electric cooling, the medieval cook discovered a secret hidden within the bones and connective tissues of the animal, a natural substance that could seal out the air and trap time itself. Imagine a heavy iron pot filled with calves' feet and marrow bones, simmering slowly over a low, dying fire for an entire day. As the water evaporates, the liquid that remains becomes thick and rich, and when it cools in the damp air of the cellar, it transforms into a clear, firm shield. This is the birth of aspic, the evolution of a survival technique into a high culinary art. You sit in the quiet, drafty hall, watching the candlelight catch the edges of a jellied meat pie, making it glow like a pale amber jewel. There is a profound stillness in the room. The only sound is the soft tick-tick of the cooling embers. Inside that jelly, pieces of roasted venison, brightly colored herbs, and even edible flowers are suspended in a state of perfect preservation. The aspic acts as a vacuum, sealing the food away from the bacteria and the oxygen of the world, allowing a meal to stay fresh and succulent for weeks in the cold stone rooms. To the medieval eye, this was a kind of alchemy, turning the humble bone into a crystal-clear protector. As you listen to the silence of the larder, you can smell the faint, clean scent of the jelly, a scent that is cold, savory, and subtly herbal. It is a smell that promises safety, the knowledge that the food is protected from decay. In modern America, we often look at aspic or meat jellies as a strange relic of the 1950s, or something found only in high-end French dining, but its roots are here, in the practical necessity of the medieval winter. Every time you enjoy a piece of savory head cheese, or a slice of premium deli meat that holds its shape, you are tasting the evolution of this ancient craft. The air in the cellar is constant and calm, a sanctuary from the changing weather outside. You feel your breathing slowing down as you focus on the transparency of the jelly, how it magnifies the colors of the food trapped within it. It is a visual lullaby, a still life painting that you can eat. The cook spends hours clarifying the liquid, passing it through fine linen cloths again and again, until it is as clear as the water in a mountain spring. This was a sign of extreme skill and patience, a labor that required no hurry, only the steady hand of time. You imagine the texture of the aspic. It is cool and smooth against the tongue, melting instantly into a rich, savory broth that coats the throat and warms the spirit. It is a sensory transition from solid to liquid, a gentle dissolution that mirrors the process of falling asleep. As you drift deeper into the night, you feel the tension leaving your mind, as if you, too, are being sealed away in a protective layer of quiet. The world outside is vast and noisy, but inside this stone room, everything is preserved in a state of grace. The aspic is a reminder that we have always sought ways to conquer time, to make the harvest last, to make the warmth endure. You see the cook placing a sprig of rosemary inside the cooling liquid, watching as it is slowly enveloped by the rising jelly. It is a quiet, beautiful capture. There is a deep peace in this tradition, a sense that nothing is ever truly lost if it is cared for with patience. The light of your candle is growing dim, casting long, shimmering shadows across the floor, shadows that look like the surface of a dark pond. You are floating, somewhere between the cooling pot and the frozen cellar, held by the translucent beauty of the past. Every layer of history is like a layer of aspic, preserving the flavors of our ancestors for us to discover today. When the night is at its coldest, the aspic is at its strongest, a silent guardian of the feast. You are safe, you are quiet, and you are surrounded by the crystalline peace of the larder. Let the image of the golden jelly guide you into a deep, clear rest. The work is finished, the seal is set, and the food is safe. Sleep now, in the evolution of the night, where the time is frozen, and the rest is eternal. Slowly, drifting away. Into the clear, into the cold, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In the world of the 14th century, the line between the kitchen and the apothecary was thin, almost invisible. To the medieval cook, every ingredient was a messenger of health, a way to balance the four humors of the body and keep the spirit in harmony with the seasons. Imagine standing in a quiet herb garden, just as the sun is beginning to set, and the air is filled with the cooling scent of damp earth and crushed leaves. You gather a handful of rosemary, a sprig of sage, and a few leaves of bitter rue, and you bring them into the warmth of the stone kitchen. Hanging from the dark oak rafters are hundreds of dried bundles, lavender, thyme, and hyssop, swaying gently in the rising heat of the hearth. This is the herbal remedy in the pot, where cooking was an act of healing, and every soup was a tonic. You sit by the fire, watching the cook toss a handful of chopped parsley into the bubbling pottage, not just for its bright, green color, but because it was believed to cleanse the blood and strengthen the heart. There is a profound stillness in the way the herbs are handled, a deep respect for the secret powers held within each stem and flower. You can smell the sharp, medicinal aroma of sage, a scent that feels like a clean, silver blade cutting through the heavy smell of roasting fat. Sage was the holy herb, thought to grant long life and sharpen the mind. As the leaves soften in the hot broth, they release their oils, turning the simple meal into a liquid medicine. To the medieval mind, a cold body needed the heat of mustard and pepper, while a feverish mind needed the coolness of mint and borage. You listen to the rhythmic snip-snip of the kitchen shears, as the herbs are prepared for the pot. It is a sound of care, a sound of protection. In modern America, we are rediscovering this ancient connection. We look at our turmeric lattes and our herbal teas, and we call it functional food. But for our ancestors, all food was functional. They didn't have a pill for every pain, they had a garden for every ailment. The air in the room is thick with this aromatic steam, a natural vapor rub that opens the chest and calms the nerves. You feel your breathing becoming deep and steady as you inhale the scent of wild thyme, which was used to treat the lungs and bring courage to the weary traveler. There is a sense of security in knowing that the earth provides everything we need to stay whole. You watch the cook stir a special syrup of violets, a deep, purple liquid that was given to those who could not sleep. Each violet was picked by hand in the early spring, its color preserved in honey and water, a gentle, floral lullaby in a jar. As you drift deeper into the shadows, you feel the tension leaving your temples, as if the scent of the lavender is smoothing away the wrinkles of the day. The kitchen is a sanctuary of health, a place where the fire transforms the raw gifts of the soil into the fuel of life. You imagine the taste of a roast seasoned with hyssop, a slightly bitter, minty flavor that was believed to purify the soul. It is a complex, earthy taste, a reminder that nature isn't always sweet, but it is always honest. Every herb has a story, a history that reaches back to the beginning of time. Rosemary was for remembrance, and as its scent fills the room tonight, it helps you remember the simple, quiet pace of the past. You are floating, somewhere between the garden and the hearth, held by the fragrant power of the plants. The cook is finishing the day's work, hanging the fresh bundles to dry in the rising smoke, ensuring that the medicine of the earth will be available all through the winter. The room is silent now, the herbs have given up their essence to the pot, and the fire has settled into a low, comforting glow. You can still smell the ghostly trail of the peppermint, a cool, refreshing shadow that lulls your senses into a state of perfect calm. This is the wisdom of the pot, the understanding that we are what we eat, and that the earth is our greatest healer. You are safe, you are quiet, and you are surrounded by the protective spirit of the garden. Let the scent of the sage and the thyme guide you into a deep, restorative sleep. The remedy is taken, the body is balanced, and the night is still. Sleep now, in the herbal history of the night, where every leaf is a prayer, and every rest is eternal. Slowly, drifting away. Into the root, into the leaf, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In a world where the rivers were often clouded with the runoff of the city, and the wells were sometimes unreliable, there was one liquid that stood as the true protector of the people. This was the ale, the liquid bread of the medieval world. Imagine a heavy, wooden tankard resting on a scarred oak table, its surface cool and damp with condensation. Inside, the ale is a deep, cloudy gold, topped with a thin, creamy foam that smells of fermented grain and sweet meadows. To the medieval mind, ale was not just a drink for celebration, it was a necessity for life itself. From the youngest child to the oldest elder, everyone drank ale, for the process of brewing, the boiling of the water and the addition of grain, made it the only safe source of hydration. You sit in the dim, golden light of a village tavern, or perhaps a quiet farmhouse kitchen, and you listen to the rhythmic glug-glug as the liquid is poured from a ceramic pitcher. This is the sound of survival. The smell is earthy, yeasty, and incredibly comforting, a scent that reminds you of a warm bakery at dawn. Unlike the clear, filtered beers of our modern world, medieval ale was thick and nutritious, filled with the proteins and vitamins of the barley and oats. It was a meal in a cup. You watch the bubbles slowly rise and vanish, a tiny, silent performance that mirrors the slow pace of the century. Every village had its alewife, a woman who managed the hearth and the fermenting vats, a keeper of the community's health. When she finished a fresh batch, she would hang a branch of evergreen outside her door, the ale stake, signaling to the weary travelers that warmth and sustenance were waiting inside. As you focus on the image of the golden liquid, you feel your breathing becoming slow and heavy. In America today, we have a vast array of beverages, but we have lost that sense of ale as a holy, life-giving substance. But as you drift towards sleep, you can still feel the primal comfort of a warm, bready drink by the fire. The air in the brewhouse is humid and sweet, smelling of malted grain and drying hay. It is a scent that wraps around you like a heavy cloak, protecting you from the damp chill of the evening. You can see the large wooden tuns where the ale is working, a soft, hushing sound of fermentation that sounds like the earth breathing. It is a living thing. There is a profound peace in the knowledge that this drink was shared by everyone, a common bond that united the peasant and the king. You imagine the taste. It is not bitter like modern hops, but sweet, smooth, and slightly spicy from the grut, a secret blend of bog myrtle, yarrow, and wild rosemary. It is a taste that grounds you, pulling your thoughts away from the clouds and down into the rich, dark soil. Every sip was a prayer of thanks for the harvest. You feel the tension leaving your chest, as if the gentle warmth of the ale is spreading through your veins, relaxing every muscle and quieting every worry. The world outside may be unpredictable, but the ale is steady, the ale is reliable. It was the fuel that built the castles, the fuel that harvested the wheat, and the fuel that shared the stories by the hearth. As you drift deeper into the shadows, you see the alewife stirring the vat with a long, blackened pole, her movements slow and deliberate, as if she is weaving a spell of sleep. The steam rises in thick, white clouds, smelling of toasted barley and autumn rain. It is a visual lullaby that puts the mind to rest. You are floating, somewhere between the barley field and the tavern bench, held by the golden history of the grain. The tankard is nearly empty, the fire is turning to ash, and the village is settling into a quiet, heavy slumber. You can still smell the faint, yeasty ghost of the brew, a comforting, bready shadow that lulls your senses into a state of perfect calm. This is the importance of the ale, the understanding that even a simple drink can be a sanctuary. You are safe, you are quiet, and you are surrounded by the liquid history of the past. Let the scent of the malt and the yeast guide you into a deep, dreamless rest. The batch is brewed, the thirst is quenched, and the night is still. Sleep now, in the golden history of the night, where the water is safe, and the rest is eternal. Slowly, drifting, away. Into the grain, into the foam, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In a world long before the vast sugar plantations changed the map of the earth, there was only one source of pure, concentrated sweetness, a liquid gold that was believed to be a gift from the heavens. This was honey. Imagine a quiet afternoon in a medieval monastery garden, where the air is heavy with the scent of blooming clover and wild lavender. In a corner of the garden, near the stone wall, stand the skeps, conical hives made of twisted straw, where thousands of bees create the most precious substance known to man. To the medieval mind, the bee was a holy creature, and its honey was the essence of the sun itself, captured in a sticky, amber glow. As you sit in the warmth of the afternoon sun, you hear the low, hypnotic hum of the hives, a steady, vibrating sound that feels like the very heartbeat of nature. This is the sweet gold, a luxury that was used as medicine, as food, and as a sacred offering. You watch as a wooden dipper is lifted from a ceramic jar, and a thick, slow stream of honey spirals downward, reflecting the light like a molten topaz. It moves with a heavy, deliberate grace, a liquid that understands the beauty of patience. The smell is floral and deep, carrying the memory of 1,000 different flowers, from the bright yellow gorse to the pale blue flax. In the medieval kitchen, honey was the soul of every celebration. It sweetened the heavy alish, it glazed the roasted meats, and it was the heart of the gingerbread that was sold at every village fair. But it was more than just a treat, it was a miracle of preservation. Honey never spoils, it is a timeless substance that defies decay, and because of this, it was seen as a symbol of immortality. As you listen to the stillness of the garden, you feel your breathing becoming slow and rhythmic, matching the steady pulse of the bees. In America today, we have sugar in every cabinet, but we have lost that sense of honey as a rare and holy treasure. But as you drift towards sleep, try to remember the weight of this liquid gold. The air in the still room is warm and sweet, smelling of beeswax candles and dried rose petals. It is a scent that feels soft and golden, protecting your thoughts from the sharp edges of the world. You can see the sunlight streaming through a jar of clover honey, turning it into a glowing lamp of amber light. It is a visual lullaby that warms the spirit. Every drop of honey is the result of a million tiny journeys, a collective labor of love that represents the harmony of the natural world. There is a profound peace in knowing that this sweetness has been cherished since the dawn of time. You imagine the taste. It is complex, thick, and intensely floral, a flavor that lingers on the tongue and brings an immediate sense of calm. It was used to heal wounds, to soothe the throat, and to bring sleep to the restless. A spoonful of honey in warm water was the original bedtime ritual, a sweet promise that the night would be gentle. You feel the tension leaving your face and eyes, as if the golden warmth of the honey is smoothing away every worry. The world outside may be cold, but the honey is always warm, the honey is always sweet. It was the light of the dark ages, a tiny spark of golden joy in a hard and heavy world. As you drift deeper into the shadows, you see the monk carefully sealing a jar with a piece of linen and a drop of wax, his movements quiet and respectful. The harvest of the hives is a sacred task. The steam from a cup of honeyed herbal tea rises in a slow, lazy swirl, smelling of lemon balm and summer memories. It is a scent that puts the mind to rest. You are floating, somewhere between the straw hive and the wooden spoon, held by the amber history of the bee. The jars are lined up on the shelf, the sun is setting behind the monastery wall, and the garden is falling into a quiet, heavy slumber. You can still feel the lingering, floral ghost of the honey, a comforting, golden shadow that lulls your senses into a state of perfect peace. This is the beauty of the sweet gold, the understanding that nature provides its own light in the dark. You are safe, you are quiet, and you are surrounded by the golden essence of the sun. Let the scent of the clover and the beeswax guide you into a deep, honeyed rest. The work of the hive is done, the jars are full, and the night is still. Sleep now, in the golden history of the night, where the world is sweet, and the rest is eternal. Slowly, drifting, away. Into the amber, into the sun, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. In the heart of the medieval village, there stood a structure that was more than just a building of stone and clay. This was the communal oven, the banal oven, the warm, glowing center of the community's daily life. Imagine a crisp, cold morning where the mist still clings to the thatched roofs, and the only light comes from the flickering orange glow of the village bakery. Because building and fueling a private oven was too expensive for most, the entire village shared one massive hearth. This was not just a place to bake bread, it was the original social network, the place where news was traded, stories were born, and the bond of the neighborhood was forged in the heat of the fire. You walk toward the oven, carrying your own small mound of dough, wrapped in a clean linen cloth. The air is filled with the incredible scent of toasted grain and burning oak, a smell so rich and welcoming that it feels like an embrace. There is a profound stillness in the way the villagers wait their turn, standing in the warmth of the stone walls, their faces lit by the rhythmic pulse of the flames. This is the communal oven, where the labor of the field finally becomes the bread of the table. You watch as the baker, with a long wooden paddle called a peel, slides the loaves deep into the arched stone chamber. The sound is a soft, satisfying scritch of wood on stone. Inside, the heat is constant and ancient, a heat that has been building for days as the heavy stones soak up the energy of the fire. To the medieval mind, the oven was a symbol of unity, for everyone's bread was baked by the same flame, and everyone's survival depended on that shared heat. As you listen to the crackle of the dry logs, you feel your breathing becoming slow and rhythmic, matching the steady heat of the oven. In America today, we bake in our private kitchens, isolated and quiet, but we have lost that sense of the shared fire. But as you drift towards sleep, try to remember the comfort of standing among your neighbors while the bread rises in the dark. The air around the oven is humid and sweet, smelling of yeast, salt, and charred wood. It is a scent that feels solid and protective, a scent that tells you that you are not alone. You can see the steam escaping from the small vent, a white plume that vanishes into the gray morning sky. It is a visual lullaby of industry and peace. Every loaf in that oven has a different mark, a cross, a line, or a notch, so that each family knows their own, yet they all share the same crust and the same warmth. There is a profound beauty in this shared necessity. You imagine the conversation, low, hushed voices talking about the weather, the harvest, or the coming festival. The oven was the keeper of secrets, the witness to the life of the village. You feel the tension leaving your back and legs, as if the radiating heat of the stone is melting away the coldness of the world. The world outside may be difficult, but here, by the communal fire, there is order, there is warmth, and there is plenty. The baker moves with a slow, practiced grace, moving the loaves from the edges to the center, ensuring that every crust is golden and every center is soft. It is a dance of timing and heat. As the sun begins to rise higher, the first loaves are pulled out, their crust singing with a tiny, crackling sound as the cool air hits them. This is the music of the bread, a delicate, high-pitched symphony of cooling grain. It is a sound that puts the mind to rest. You are floating, somewhere between the dough and the crust, held by the steady, communal heat of the stone. The basket is heavy and warm against your chest, the scent of the fresh bread following you back to your home. The oven will stay hot all day, and even when the fire is out, the stones will radiate warmth long into the night, a lingering memory of the day's work. This is the heart of the village, the understanding that we are stronger together. You are safe, you are quiet, and you are surrounded by the warmth of 1,000 shared loaves. Let the scent of the toasted wheat and the glowing embers guide you into a deep, communal rest. The bread is baked, the fire is banked, and the night is still. Sleep now, in the shared history of the night, where the fire belongs to everyone, and the rest is eternal. Slowly, drifting away. Into the stone, into the heat, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. As we reach the end of our journey through the medieval kitchen, the small flickering fires and humble pottage pots give way to the ultimate celebration of life, the grand feast. Imagine the great hall of a castle, its high stone arches draped in colorful tapestries, and long tables of heavy oak stretching from one end of the room to the other. This is the finale, the moment where every ingredient we have discussed, the spices, the bread, the honey, and the ale, all come together in a symphony of abundance. The air is thick with a scent so complex and rich that it feels like a dream, the smell of roasting venison basted in red wine, the sweetness of baked pears, and the sharp, clean fragrance of fresh rushes on the floor. Thousands of candles flicker in iron chandeliers, casting a warm, golden glow that makes the silver plates and pewter mugs shimmer like stars. This is the feast, a world where time stops, and the only thing that matters is the shared joy of the table. You take your seat on a long wooden bench, feeling the weight of the day lift from your shoulders. There is no hurry here, for a feast is a ceremony of hours, a slow, rhythmic progression of courses that are designed to delight the eyes as much as the stomach. You watch as the servants bring in the first course, large trenchers of bread topped with delicate fish and almond milk, and small pies filled with spiced fruits. The sound of the hall is a low, humming murmur, a gentle sea of voices and the distant melody of a lute playing by the hearth. It is a sound that puts the mind to rest. To the medieval heart, the feast was a vision of paradise on earth, a sign that after the long labor of the fields and the cold of the winter, there would always be a place of warmth and plenty. As you look down the table, you see the social hierarchy of bread on full display, from the snow-white manchet of the Lord to the golden maslin of the guests. You see the sweet and savory fusion in the glazes of the meats, and you smell the spices as status symbols in every aromatic cloud of steam. Every chapter of our story is present here tonight. The fire in the great hearth is a massive, roaring presence, crackling with the strength of whole oak logs, providing a heat that seeps into your very bones. You feel your breathing becoming deep, steady, and calm as you focus on the rhythmic movement of the feast. In America today, we have our grand holiday dinners, our Thanksgiving and our Christmas tables, but they are all reflections of this ancient finale. We still gather, we still share, and we still find peace in the abundance of the harvest. The air in the hall is growing warmer and heavier, a comfortable, sleepy atmosphere that wraps around you like a velvet cloak. You can see the perpetual stew in its most refined form, a rich, dark bouillon served in silver bowls, clear and deep as a forest pool. And there, in the center, are the mince pies, shaped like treasures and smelling of the exotic East. Every dish is a story, and every story is a comfort. As the night grows older, the courses become lighter, moving toward the sweet gold of honeyed nuts and spiced wines. You watch a single candle flame dance in the draught, a tiny, golden heartbeat that captures your gaze. You are drifting now, somewhere between the music and the firelight, held by the magnificent history of the human appetite. There is a profound peace in this completion, a sense that the cycle of the year has been fully honored. The table is a map of the world, bringing together the grain of the fields, the fish of the sea, and the spices of the desert. You feel the tension leaving your spirit, as if the grand finale is a final, soothing lullaby for your soul. The feast is not just about food, it is about the knowledge that you are part of something vast and ancient. The hall is growing dimmer now, as the candles burn low, and the guests lean back in their seats with contented sighs. The laughter is softer, the music is slower, and the shadows are longer. The great iron pot has been emptied, the communal oven has cooled, and the larder is full. You are safe, you are quiet, and you are surrounded by the golden memories of the hearth. This is the end of our journey, but the warmth of the medieval kitchen will stay with you long into the night. As you close your eyes, imagine the great hall falling into a peaceful silence, the embers of the fire glowing like soft, red jewels in the dark. The story is told, the feast is done, and the rest is eternal. Let the scent of the wood smoke and the honey guide you into the deepest, most restful sleep of your life. The world is at peace, the kitchen is still, and the night is yours. Sleep now, in the grand finale of the night, where every heart is full, and every dream is sweet. Slowly, drifting, away. Into the gold, into the fire, into the dream. Sleep and sleep. Deeply, calmly, forever. Good night.